Welcome to another episode of RalloTech Sports Health and Fitness Podcast. Today I'm happy to announce episode 20 and I have a very special guest. I'll just let her introduce herself, but I'm so excited to have her on once more. The last episode that she was on was episode 2 back in March, but I'd love to get my ride or die on here and get her to share her testimony. Christine, take it away.
Hi, everybody. How's it going? I'm happy to join you. It's been a long time, I guess. And yeah, here we are.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with one of the things that I wanted to do from back in March there is to kind of expand on how we met. So I'd get Christine to give us her take. No, I'd like you to give us your POV of how we met, and then I will give mine afterwards. Ladies first. Go ahead.
Well, I guess how I would say how we met. I'd moved to Jamaica when I was 20 years old. A year after I was in college, and joined a mission group. And then just on our downtime, I would be running or playing basketball, and then I would see you around the basketball court and around the campus and a few places, and then I think it was we just get to know each other on the basketball court, and then after three years, and I'd come back from Canada and you'd come back from Canada, then we kind of started hanging out more, going swimming, and I think that was the year. We'd come back down in March, and it was minus 50 with the wind chill here
In Canada.
And then by the time we got down in Jamaica, it was plus 36 something. It was an 80 or 90 degree difference, and we played basketball every evening for 14 days in a row.
Yeah.
Including the one evening it downpoured.
Yeah.
And it was just so nice to be outside when it wasn't freezing.
The rain was actually warm.
And the rain was actually good. And then I think I got a bit of heat stroke afterwards because my body was in shock.
Yeah.
But then we're... What was it? A couple... And then the one day you asked if I wanted to hang out after basketball, and we went down to the ocean, went swimming.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, what are you doing after? And I said nothing, because it was Easter weekend and everybody was gone. There wasn't really anything going on. And I said well, meet me back here in an hour and bring your camera and a pair of running shoes. So I met you back there, and we went for a hike up in the hills, and it was running through the trees, and then it started downpouring, and you kind of grabbed my hand and pulled me down this trail in a torrential downpour, and then all of a sudden pulled me into this train tunnel that came out of nowhere.
19 something.
And then
something.
And then we stood under there, and it was just I feel like it was a scene out of a movie.
Yeah. I think you still have pictures of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we went through the train tunnels, and you screamed at the bats flying through your hair.
Yeah, we don't like bats. We don't like rat bats.
And then we came out the other side and went around the edge of the mountain and went through another train tunnel, and then when you came out the second train tunnel, it was the whole of Montego Bay.
Yeah, I can see a nice overview
just
of Montego Bay.
A whole different view.
And the Freeport area where the ships go.
Yeah. So it was a great adventure.
Yeah.
Which was right up my alley.
I'll give my
Okay,
recollection.
go ahead. Oh, yeah.
I'll give my recollection of how we met. So, my cousin actually, if you remember, if memory serves you correctly, my cousin Koita actually introduced us on the basketball court the one day, and she was saying, "Oh, this is my friend Christine. She's here. She's I know, but she was telling me that she's like
A soccer ball.
right, but." How we met was on the basketball court, actually battling against each other because you normally play on Koita's team, and Koita was like, "Oh yeah, this is Christine from Canada," and to be honest with you, I was like, it was the first time, to be honest with you, I've seen females in Jamaica play soccer, but other than my cousin, I didn't see a lot of females playing basketball. And I was surprised to see, this white girl walk on the court as like she owned the court. And to be honest, when you play on Andy said in the last podcast that that court has some stories to it, and it's true because honestly I felt like that court was my court, even though I didn't own any property over there. But it's like you're in my house, that's my court, and in my neighborhood. So it was like, it was refreshing to see a female not scared to get her hands dirty. That was really cool to see. And in my opinion, I was like, and she can actually shoot, because it's like a lot of the girls that even try to come and play basketball, they couldn't shoot. They could make a layup because they're used to playing netball, but they couldn't shoot. So when we met that one day, I used to see her going for a run around the property, sometime even at 6 o'clock, first thing in the morning when the sun's coming up. I don't know if you remember that. The one time I was coming in from work late, and I was like, "What the heck are you doing out running this time of morning?" It's like, "Oh, I felt bored," and she was going for a run before the sun even came up, and she was working up a sweat, and I was like, this girl actually keeps very active, like an active lifestyle. So even back then, I was kind of impressed with how much she likes to run. So when we were playing basketball on the court, she would get like a pick and roll and outrun her opponent, whoever she's playing against, because you just see a point in the game and just bowl for it. Like, open. To be honest, she actually outrun my entire basketball team when we were playing men's league in Jamaica. That's how much she loved to run. Even the coach was giving us a hard time, like, we have to do extra lap because Christine was outrunning us. That's how much I remember how much she loved to run. But saying that to say this, it was refreshing to see a female that actually gets her hand dirty, love to play basketball with the boys, and will trash talk you on top of everything. So it's like, I was like, who the heck is this girl? So I must say, I think we came back a day apart when we came back from Canada, because I was in British Columbia and she lived in Alberta at the time. And when we came back, she came back a day after I returned to Jamaica, and it was the first time for Canadian audience, when you leave Jamaica and you come to, we call it foreign. It was the first time I've ever flew on an aircraft to come to Canada, and Canada was my first destination. So it's like it was a whole new world to me, and I'm like, okay, that's awesome. I'd like to do more of that in the future. And then when I got back, it was a day apart that we got back to Jamaica. She got back on my birthday, and I got back a day before my birthday. So it was like, maybe this is like some people would say the universe, but it's like God showing you a sign. Like, I actually tried to email you when I was in Calgary, but I couldn't get even an email address for you. But I just got to the point where I'm like, you know what, I'll see her again. Even though I was in her, I literally, like, I was telling her this story. We drove from Vancouver Island. If whoever is tuning in and know this distance, it's a 12.5 hour drive from Vancouver Island to Calgary. At the time, Christine lived like 45 minutes to an hour from Calgary, and I was in Calgary heading to my aunt in Winnipeg. And it took us 2 days to drive from Van. It should take you a half a day, but it took us 2 days to drive. That, but then you didn't have GPS, so it took us a longer time because my brother didn't want to come on the toll road, and he took the long route. So it took us 2 days to get to Calgary, and then another day to get to Winnipeg. And I was like, "Oh, I was in Calgary." She's like, "Wait, what?" So it was so funny that we were like maybe an hour apart from each other, because if I remember, I was staying at Devon's when I came to Calgary, which my cousin lives in Calgary at the time, and I was like, we're so close. If I had any contact, and back then phone numbers were
We were more like
acquaintance,
We
but
didn't really know each other
but
that
it would be
well.
nice to be like, "Hey, I was in your city." You know what I mean? But needless to say, when we got back, it's more like, I like Canada. She's from Canada. I'm gonna shoot my shot. In other words, so it's
Yeah, but you weren't a very good shot.
14 days of playing ball, and in my POV, I think I impressed her with those 14 days of playing ball. She was trying to say when I was giving my POV that I wasn't a great shot, but whoever played against me or with me will attest that I am a good shot. Yes, I would have to say that, and I'm not scared to say it on here. She actually helped me with my mechanics on my shot and teach me how to shoot better. But I had my game, and I still have my game. I'll pass the ketchup bottle over to her.
I just remember somebody asking me when I was back here, like, why you keep going down there? Like, is there somebody back there? Like, and I was like, no, not really. We're just like a couple friends or whatever. It's just nice to go down, and I preferred it down there than here.
But what did
your grandma
say? What did your grandma
And then somebody was, I don't know, like, if there was somebody like, and I said, well, there's this one guy that I play basketball with, that we're not really that good of friends, but he always seems to like be like, if somebody's breaking out in a fight, he's always in the middle of the fight, calming everybody down. Or if he's going in for a layup and I like go to block him and he like smashes into me, he always seems to catch me and I don't hit the ground.
True.
And it's like, well, I'm not getting out of the way, but I'm more than able to take a hit. But I was like, I never seemed to hit the ground, so you always caught me at some point. all the times when you were like body checking me. But
yeah, there's one player on your team that like she's talking about body check. There was one player, which sadly was my cousin, like to clothesline people when they're going up for a layup, like full on WWE clothesline people going up for a layup. And if you get that clothesline, there's no way you're gonna make that layup. And she's like, "Oh, it's not a foul," and it's like, it's definitely a foul. There's no way that's not a foul. But I remember the one. What was it? I think we were playing on the same team. If memory serves me correctly, we were playing on the same team, and we were running a bunch of pick and roll. And I think you got that baseline shot, like you came right around the pick and roll, and I just made a almost like behind the back pass without looking. And by the time the ball, I don't know if it's a Steph Curry shot or what, but by the time the ball reached your hand, all I could see is the ball going up for a swish. And I was like, man, she can shoot. That's the one thing. If anything else, that's the one thing I remember back then. Christine would shoot your lights out. And I asked her tonight, because I was like, maybe I didn't ask this question before, but because I really want to know, like, what was the, for me, I call it a bug that was set in me. So I asked, what was the first time you fell in love with basketball? I literally asked her, and I was like, you know what? I want her to explain it in her own words, because it's like, for me, it was watching that bald-head guy called Michael Jordan on TV and start playing basketball with my cousin and my brother and his friends, which was me learning to play basketball with grown men in their 30s, and then watching Michael Jordan on the TV. I just fell in love with basketball immediately. And if you remember, soccer was my first sport. Soccer and cricket, but I didn't really like cricket that much. But we're going to talk about the soccer thing after you tell me what was the first time you was the first time you fell in love with the game of basketball? That's what I want to know.
I don't know if I actually like can say I can pick a day when I fell in love with it, but I like that like from grade 2, I think I was like 8 or 9.
Yes.
And my dad had put me in a club basketball with like some YMCA in Lethbridge for the summer, and he was coaching us then, and but then just over time, as like it just followed me through school and into high school, and it was always a good way to like meet people that were sort of on the same page as you, like that like to be active, that wasn't afraid to get competitive and to, you know, clothesline people and work on technique and stuff. But I remember one of the defining moments between you and I is like when we got back and we'd just sit there and like play ball like day after day for like 14 days. And then go to the beach. And then we would just like sit around afterwards and just like joke around and laugh and like, and I didn't always know everybody's name, but we just sit there like just hanging out. There's no pressure, like everybody's just like sweaty and done, and we just sit there and just laugh about stuff. And remember the one time I was shooting around when we were at the basketball court and that they were playing soccer on the field next door, and I started getting mad because they kept shooting or kicking the soccer ball over onto the basketball court
because there's no fence.
Because there isn't any fence or any whatever. So I turned around at one point and just booted that soccer ball as hard as I could. I was just like, oh, like get this thing out of here.
And what happened?
And I kicked it literally as hard as I could, and like turned around and it hit you like square in the crotch. And I was just like keel over and like hit the ground. I'm like, I'm so sorry. So sorry. And you're like, can you stop laughing, please? I can't breathe.
Let me put some context.
So after that, I figured, I was like, well, if he still wants to hang out after this, I think we're good to go. I think that was a defining moment.
Let me put some context to that, because she's laughing most of the point that she's making there, but she kicked the ball and it hit me square in the jewels. And you know, like when they said your nuts fly to your head, that's literally what it felt like. It left the midsection and flew right to my head, and I was like, why are you laughing right now? I was like, why are you laughing right now? Like, what's so funny? But it's one of those, it's like almost a scene from a movie where you see the guy eyes, what do you call it? Bulge out of their head and feel like it's going to pop out of the eye socket. And I was like, why are you laughing right now? But I know it wasn't on purpose. I know it was clearly an accident. It wasn't something that she just decided, okay, you keep kicking the ball on the court, I'm just going to kick this ball right, in the midsection. But it's one of those things where at the end of the day, if you can live through something like that and still remain friends, I think at that point it's not the end of the world. In other words, so yeah. One of the things I wanted to ask her because it kind of reminded me how much she was active back then. Like she, even by herself, just shooting the ball around. Why? I want to ask it in an open-ended way, but why did you choose? And I know you used to love to run as well, right? What was the I'll ask it this way: what was the highest scoring game that you had playing ball? I know you play a lot of ball here, but what was the highest scoring game? Because I think you're giving me something in the 40s before.
Yeah, some. Well, it's kind of like two questions in one, but as you go through like high school and stuff, and then you start like, I loved basketball because it was something that I could work on technique on my own, like work on your shot, and you can make 100 shots in a row or something like that.
So it's like muscle memory.
Yeah. And it would just like, I was not a person I was definitely not in the party crowd. And so this was a way for me to blow off steam if I was stressed or frustrated or like trying to talk to God about stuff that I wanted to do in my life and just trying to figure out like what my next step was. Like I need to go for a run. I need to decompress and clear my head and go for a run. So a lot of that was like in the winter time. A lot of times it was on the basketball court, or I also like wasn't afraid of being competitive with people either. So even by grade 9, I was playing on the high school team because they were short of players, and to the point that was I went up against some girls under the net, and the one girl landed on my foot and smoked me at the same time and broke my foot.
Oh, wow. And
I spent probably 6 weeks in a cast after that, but I was trying to I still, coach asked me yo, are you good? And I was like, I just need to sit down for a minute. So she called me off, and then I kind of went down to the end of the bench and realized that my foot was swelling up pretty good. And then she looked, because we were at the end of a tournament and the game was pretty hot, and she's like, can you go back in? I'm like, yep, I sure can. So I just tied up my shoe as tight as I could get it, and I went back on the court to finish the game because one of the girls had got fouled out, and it was just it was a good way to express yourself in a lot of ways too. They didn't mind if I was a little bit more aggressive or or active, or I could outrun. I was running baselines all the time, and so it was just a good way to burn off steam and meet people. And then it followed me right into when I started traveling and going to Jamaica and meeting a lot of people that way. And it seemed to be I don't know, it's like the group of people that
but you also
followed the game. So
played at a college level too, if I'm not mistaken.
I didn't play college ball,
but you played at a college level.
I ended up coaching a junior high team that year. I played on and then when we had moved back, I was playing on the women's league and stuff like that.
No, but what I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to say, she didn't play on a college team. But what I was asking specifically, the style of game that you had, you're playing at a college level, not that you played on a college team. Because I remember one friend that you showed me that lives close to where we live, she actually played on the college team. And I think she went overseas to play. One of the girls from Three Hills that owned the Subway in Three Hills.
You were mixing that up.
Oh, sorry. Maybe I'm mistaken. But I remember you telling me about one girl that you played with that was real. Or the girl. Yeah. She was that good. And she made the college team. And you tried out for the college team as well. Am I wrong? Maybe I'm mistaken with the story. But
you're mixing 3 stories.
So what the point I'm trying to get at. So even if I'm mixing up the story, I know that when I watch you play women's league, because I watch college ball, I end up watching college ball a few times.
Even though we were a smaller school, we played a 4A schools and a couple of tournaments.
Okay.
That we would be we could get super competitive with, and sometimes the games got pretty rough.
So that's what I was saying. It's not that you played for a college, you're playing at a college level after high school. Am I wrong in saying that? No. That's what I was saying. Because in my experience, right? And I remember this because when you're running with us in our men's league in Red Deer, not in Red Deer, in our men's league in Montego Bay, you're running drills that when I look back on it now, they run those drills in college. Because one of the guys that we played, but that's what I'm saying. One of the guys that we actually played against in Montego Bay actually made it to an NCAA college on a scholarship, and we're playing pretty competitive with them. We even beat them in the finals, actually. The same guy that we played against and was competitive against, we actually beat them in the finals because he was one of the better players on his team for sure, but he was not the point guard on the team. And we had a pretty good point guard. And I remember you yelling from the sideline like,
Run.
"Get that layup, run, run!" And I was like, "What the heck? That's my wife over there." Because at the time,
It was painful to watch.
we were slacking off. No word of a lie, we were slacking off. And Christine was on the bench, on the sideline, yelling at us with the coach wife, like, "Come on, guys, get that rebound, run, run!" And I was like, yeah, if that doesn't put motivation on your back, nothing else will. Because even some of the big guys that are taller than myself was like out rebounding everybody. It's like we got the person that's pushing us more and more on the side. Like, I kid you not, there's times
You won though.
the time, yeah, we won the whole championship, to be honest with you. And
Yeah.
I was like, holy cow, like
So I could
we
run
did
a
this.
couple of your practices.
Coach made us run extra laps because you're outrunning us in practice.
Yeah.
That's what happened. So I remember it like it was yesterday, man, because this was like we'd catch a taxi and we'd go downtown.
Wasn't it Andre was the other
Yeah,
guy?
Andre was our point guard.
Yeah.
Andre and one of the, I can't remember the other guy's name, was our point guard. And to be honest with you,
Malone or something? Malone?
maybe Marley was our center. Actually, Marley was our center. But it was, to go back down memory lane, I know some of the memories kind of fuzzy. It was like some of the guys that we played with was like motivated when Christine is there, and then when we're slacking off and the coach see that Christine is yelling at us on the side, even in practice, we'd have to do extra lap. It was like her she was like her assistant coach with the coach wife, to the point where we became pretty good friends with the coach and his wife. But I'm telling you, Christine would be yelling on the sideline. Hold on.
Shout out to Donalda, by the way.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, because you know how we know that we became good friends with them? I remember them inviting us to their wedding, and I was like, that's an honor, because the coach didn't have to invite us to his wedding. But I was like, that's how much I remember us playing like very competitive for an island league basketball. And we did so good. If we had the sponsor, we could have made it to All Island. We could have made it to All Island playing against like guys in Kingston and so on. So I gotta say, it's funny. One of the other memory I have with me and you on the basketball court, it was one of those things where we're playing ball so much. It was probably like 7 o'clock at night, and we set up floodlights and played at nighttime, just so we could get an extra hour or so in the nighttime, because at 6:45 sunset and darkness would come upon you like within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But Christine was like, "We have some floodlights, man. We can set up some floodlights and continue playing." And it felt like we're in a stadium playing ball, and we're all like chipping in to, get this light set up and get Christine on the court, and we're playing ball. Because I don't know what it is, but that little court, it wasn't even a full half court. It was just a piece of concrete pavement, or sorry, a little concrete pad that they put like a Walmart purchase hoop on. And we had so much fun playing ball there. So much fun, to the point where when there's no ball, it's almost like one of the deterrent for playing ball would be like the rain. And the rain would fall, and we would squeegee off the court with a big squeegee, so we could get to play ball. Even though the court was slippery, we still wanted to play. But it's one of those things where ball is life. You find a way to play ball regardless of rain, sunshine. The only time we would definitely have to stop and not play is when a hurricane was passing through, because nobody would be able to go play ball. But it's just one of those things where Christine and myself, I think we were there for Hurricane Dean. Was it Ivan? Hurricane Ivan. So Hurricane Ivan passed through, and as soon as we realized that, we weren't able to play ball for the first couple days because we were cleaning up debris off the court and off the soccer field, and it was like the very next week, as soon as the storm has passed, we're able to go hoop and go hoop for another 14 days. But it's one of those things, I look back on it like, this is one of the points I wanted to touch. For me, basketball builds certain confidence in myself. And I was asking Christine, I was like, how would you say basketball has influenced your life? Like life skills and so on. How would you put that out there?
I think there's there's so many different ways that has really influenced like a lot of the way you think and process. For example, like working together as a team, or if you can have like good games and bad games, just like you have a good day or a bad day. And different times where we've talked about just like with life, sometimes when life gets really frustrating and it seems like it's starting to spin out of control, and there's just like one thing after another, and then sometimes you kind of have to like pull back and just like sit on the sideline, like sit on the bench for a little bit and get a different perspective of the game. And then you can kind of see it differently when you're on the bench looking, and then you're like, okay, I can see where the hole is, or I see how that person's getting through, or I can see how, where the changes or where the adjustments need to get made. And then you can go back out there and change the game. And I think so much we can do that in life too. And that's what I think has helped us a lot of times too, which even times where like we've been, upset with each other or arguing or whatever, and then we can like drop a little trash talk and back and forth, and then it just changes the whole mood of the situation, because it doesn't have to, you don't have to go through life always feeling like, you're getting beat on the court. You can go through it and just be like, hey, let's play our game. Like, instead of always being reactive to somebody else's game or whatever's happening in life, let's just like, okay, timeout. And our timeouts now, a lot of times we call like a family meeting, whereas like, different times we've been in situations in life, and it's okay, we need a timeout. We need to call a family meeting and sit down and be like, hey, if this isn't working for us, let's change it. And we always joke around about like, we'll sell everything and buy a ship and sail around the world. Like, that's plan B, but that's just like, at any point you can, in your game and or in life, you can, let's call a timeout. We need to have a family talk, and just like, instead of just spinning our wheels and getting frustrated and coming out at each other, like just if you're having a bad game with each other on the court, you can be like yelling at each other and guard your guy and do this and do that, and sometimes, and then it's like you're taking your frustration out on your teammate versus like attacking the problem together. And that's usually a good sign where you need to like, call a timeout, and we'll just pause what we're doing here for a minute, and then we're going to keep going. And then that's just how we do life, right? Like, you're not just going to like keep playing and then just hoping that things get better. You have to like sometimes calling a timeout and just going, hey, like check in with each other, check in with your teammates, check, like if you feel like you can't guard this guy, let's switch. Or like even in life, when you've got a partner in the house or something, and you can just check in with them and just be like, are you good? Like, do you want me to take over something? And you can sit back a little bit, like whether it's kids or house responsibilities or bills or something like that. Like if something's getting too much, it's like, hey, let's check in with each other and see if somebody needs see if your teammate needs help, or if they're struggling, or if they're feeling like they're getting beat all the time, and then like whether it's a teammate or life or whatever, and they're getting beat in life or in a bad game, then you can just like, or I mean, even at the end of the day, if you've lost a game and you're like, well, that sucked. So, but then you can also know that, you know what, there's always another game. There's always, we're not going to quit. And I think that also has helped us a lot over the years. And even through some of our rough seasons, is that it's taught us like, we can't quit. We just have to like, whatever it means, like you have to, sometimes it's about digging deep and you finish the game, or you finish the struggle that you're in, or the season that you're in, and you keep going. But it doesn't mean that you can't stop and check in with your teammate or check in with whoever you're doing life with, and just say, hey, like, are you good? Do you need me to do something?
We had that discussion 4 years ago.
But even like this last, from spring and summer, like all the stuff we've been going through, like we've been super thankful that it was a rough ride, but there was also a lot to be thankful for, where we could still look at each other and just be like, we've got this. And I've got what he doesn't have, or he's got what I don't have. And
teamwork.
And we just are covering different areas of life, or the court, or whatever. Like, so there's a lot of ways in life that like basketball has really played as like a metaphor, but also played very, very realistic.
Something you touch on. I asked you this earlier, but something you touch on, like why did you think basketball became? I think you said basketball and riding was some of your favorite things to do, because it gets you doing something very physical, and you have to put some effort into it, because you can't just half do it to get better at it. You have to put the work in, and I've seen you over the years put the work into the riding, and Araya became a really good rider because of that stuff, because you really put the work into it. But you said basketball built confidence for you, and it builds like what else did you say it did for you? It's one of the things where you find, you mentioned teamwork before, where it teaches you to work with people regardless of their skill set, so they can grow. Because some of the times some people come to you green, but by the end of like a workout session, they're better at shooting. And I can say this, like, I'm more than happy to say this. You taught me how to shoot better and stop sticking my elbow when I take my shot, and I became a better shooter over time, because it's like it's those mechanics behind proper shooting. Both you and your dad actually said, one thing I can look up if I want to know more about shooting is look up Pistol Pete. I can't remember his actual name, but it's like
there's also stuff,
the mechanics behind shooting.
There's also stuff too, where it's like over the years, where like you and I have both developed our game differently, but like even when you've gotten into games here, and I've seen you play aggressively or whatever, and I'd be like, stop playing shy.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Stop playing.
Many times you've said that.
Stop playing like you're a shoe-in or something like that. It's like, no, like this is your game. Like, play your game. And like even in life, we got to do the same thing, right? Like, stop being reactive to whatever is happening to you all the time, and just be like, okay, stop playing shy. Like, whether it's at work or in basketball, it's like, play your game. Like, you got to be out there, and like, yeah, sometimes you got to take a minute and like assess the problem or assess the other team or whatever, but like
assess the defense,
like,
in other words.
Yeah, but there's a lot of that time, it's like, whether it's in life or you're hanging out, like, or if you're hanging out with certain people, and I'm like, buddy, this is not your game. Like, you got to play your game, and it's not everybody's lifestyle, but
No.
It is ours, and that's why for almost 20 years now, I can say, like, you know what, like, I know what you're capable of, and I know what you can do. And like that's probably the greatest thing about having a teammate for so long too, is that like we've known each other for so long, where it's like if you're starting to play out of character, it's like, what are you doing? Play who you are, not just like don't get caught up in the don't downplay yourself because of the people around you, right?
I find where when you play outside of your skill set, or your game, as Christine said, it throws you off. It's almost like the mechanics is off and you're learning how to play basketball all over again. But if muscle memory, I think Kobe Bryant and actually Michael Jordan talk about this. If you practice 1,000 shots and those same shots that you're taking is going in because of the repetition of practicing the same thing over and over again, where you can do it with your eyes closed, it's almost like when you stop doing what you're capable of, because I call it stage fright, to be honest with you. Like you have stage fright and you get to the point where you're just like, what am I doing? And I think the right thing to do is to top in and top out, because sub yourself out, assess what's going on the court, and then say, you know what, I'm gonna go back on and make a difference. And I did that. I know you weren't there for it, but I did that in my semifinal game against a team that if I didn't change the game around, would have lost big time, because the team that we're playing against, they're not a pushover.
But you can see how.
But sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, you can see how even when, like, say, like, our marriage or our relationship, which is coming up on 20 years now, you can see how it's even benefited us. Like when we would play on the court and we would just get like a flow going, and we just a side glance or a look, and you knew what pass was coming. But then, like, even all these years later, you can, like, we both kind of still have that mindset where we see each other and you see like the move that you're going to make, or the move that, or if you're having like an off game or whatever. But for us to both have that understanding is like a way that we kind of communicate on a different level. Like, that's what I say. You know what I mean? Like, it's, we both understand the game, and we both understand like basketball for real. Yeah. But then how we both apply that into life and marriage, and we can still like trash talk each other and like, joke around and stuff like that, even when somebody's trying to be serious. And then we kind of just like change the whole mood by just like trash talking you a little bit, and then you're like, oh. That's funny.
One of the things I want to add is, like Christine saying, change the mood. I say it in a different way, but it's the same. It means the same thing. You pivot, find a different angle, because sometimes you're not seeing, when you're on the court, you're not seeing the mistake you're making, and then your teammate, like Christine just said, like in life, would say, hey, that's not the right move to make. They're gonna see that move coming. Like, find a different angle. Like, it's almost like you're charging on the court on a fast break. You have two defenders standing to block your shot, but then you see that one of your teammates is cutting baseline, and you're just gonna find that pocket for the perfect pass for your teammate to make a layup. So in life, I look at it like, all right, I'm failing in certain areas. What do I need to work on? And if Christine can see that I need to work on certain things, she'll point it out. And for me, it took me a while to learn this, but as a man, you should listen to reasoning sometime. And if the reasoning is sound, you listen to that reasoning, because some of the time it saves your life. I remember, I know this is not about sport, but I remember the one time you were telling me not to rush to work because something is going to happen. And that old green truck there, oh my gosh, it spun around on Highway 2. And I remember coming back and take the what do you call it? Take the small highway if the weather is bad, because the back of the truck, I didn't realize that the back of the truck, if it's light, it'll spun around on you because all the power is coming from the rear if the 4x4 is not activated. But when Christine said that to me, I was like, that was my mistake, because I was going up a hill and I punched on the gas because we're on the highway, and the truck did 2 360 turns, and in my mind I'm like, all right, this is it. Thank you, Lord, for giving me this amount of years to be on planet Earth. But I was like, I'm ready to cash the trips in, because I was like, this is it. But when I made it back home and I was telling her that story, she was like, all you really need is 2 sandbags in the back of the truck. And I was like, oh. So it's like calling out to play on the court that you don't see while you're on the court. But like, as I said, Christine used to be one of my biggest, person to support me on the sideline. Like, yo, get aggressive. Like, body that guy. Like box him out of the paint. Keep him out of the paint so you get the rebound if one of their shooters miss a shot. And it's like I got to the point where there's times when I'm playing even men's league here in Canada, I was like killing the board. The one guy said to me, I have to foul you underneath the basketball hoop because I can't get past you. The one guy said that when we won provincial, and I was like, you bet you won't be able to pass me when I'm getting the rebound, because it's like locked down. This is mine and nobody else. And it was a 2-day tournament where we end up coming out victorious, because we lost men's league, and then going forward we know that we had provincial coming up. We didn't lose a game. That's how mad. I know the whole team was mad, but that's how eager was for a win, because we lost our men's league and we just took all of that frustration into the provincial. And provincial was good.
Sometimes you need that voice though, because sometimes you need that voice though, because basketball can also be a very mental game. Like if you're distracted because of stuff with going on with life, sometimes you need that person that's like, and like somebody made a couple shots on you or dunked on you or something like that, and then you're like, and then you're feeling like down, and it's like, shake it off and keep going. Like, stop feeling sorry for yourself, and like don't feel sorry for yourself because somebody did that. Answer back. Shoot them right back. Like,
So I've seen this even recently, and you're wondering if I'm going crazy down here because I'm watching the France and US finals, and LeBron went to take a charge, and the guy dunked on him, and you know what he did? Took it, brushed it off his shoulder, and went back down the court and made a shot. Because it's like, it's a game of runs. That's the one thing I can look at. Basketball is a game of runs, and you have to just take. Sorry, go ahead.
But like even in life though, like when you were in like university and you had people that were close to you being like, oh, you're no better off than when we were back in Jamaica, and I was like, I call BS on that, and I was like, you need to shake that off and like focus on what you need to do and stop listening to people around you that are like trying to get you off your game and manipulate your zone, like where your mental space is. And just like sometimes that's half of our battles, like whether like it's in life or in basketball, it's like that mental game. And if you're surrounded by people that are like toxic or negative or whatever, they're gonna get you down and they're gonna throw you off your game. And you have to have a voice in your life that's like, you need to like shake that off and get back up and not feel sorry for yourself and finish what you came here to do.
That's right. That's like from God's mouth to my ears, because it's like it's funny. Like I've said this many times, where I see a lot of people get frustrated over stuff where I know for a fact that it's something that you can overcome. And like you said, whether in basketball or in life, it is one of those things where you figure out, okay, this angle is not working. I can't get past the defense on this angle. How else can I penetrate the defense so I can get a basket? And it applies to life so much, because it's like, okay, this situation that we're in is not bringing any fruit. It's like we plant a tree and we never get a fruit off the tree. So it's one of those things where you find a different angle to penetrate the defense and then get a shot. Because at the end of the day, you want to win in life just like how you win in the game. And the truth behind all of this is, I think we feed off each other's energy. Because if Christine is down, and we're gonna segue into this, if Christine is down and she needs some positivity, there's not a lot of times when I can't be like, you know what, we're gonna find a different angle. We're gonna find a different angle and figure it out, because it's like, if I'm down, she does the same thing for me. So it's just the same when she's down. I have to give her some positivity, because in the game of life, for example, you're not gonna have a lot of positive people that's gonna feed into you if they don't believe in what you're doing. And I can say this, like I said this a couple podcasts ago, and I remember when my first tournament, I was down here sitting in this area just the same, and I was counting up the teams that I had for the tournament because I wanted a certain amount. I was praying for a certain amount, and when I had the amount of teams signed up, you're wondering why I was shouting for joy that much, because it's like it was something I've really wanted to do for a long time. And you see how frustrated it got me, and you're like, it's okay, we're gonna find a different angle, we're gonna get the teams that you need. Maybe you have to change the date. And you just kept motivating me to say, hey, just figure out a different day that work. What about this day? And if memory serves me correctly, I think you told me, why don't you try it on family day? People are normally off and they're around family and they're in town, and it would be a nice day to do it. And that's how we stumble upon family day to do the tournament, because I was like, I felt as if I was failing at doing my first tournament, and doing two now on the same family day.
It also gave you time to prepare properly and not rush it. And that's probably like, I don't know, maybe I think that's, and I think about it, it's also probably one of the things why I loved about basketball. Because I'm always like, this is something you've known about me since day one, is that like, I'm like an actions speak louder than words kind of person from day one. Like, people can talk your ear off and tell you the sweetest things, but like, it'll come out in the wash, or the proof's in the pudding, whatever they want to call it. But like, you can tell who's doing their homework on the court. Like, you can see who shows up for just like the show, but they don't know how to shoot, or they they can't make a layup or whatever. Like, that's probably why, because you could always like see where people were at. Like, if like, even I've gone to tournaments or whatever, and it's like, you could tell the people that were out partying the night before, and you could see the people that were rested up and ready for the game.
Yeah.
And that's where like, yeah, like, you could tell the people that were like, oh, this, they say one thing and do another.
Yeah.
Or the people that were like, I'm going to, when I show up, I show up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to half-ass it.
Yeah.
And that's probably an important aspect to me. That's also probably why you and I got along, because, and why we went from like kind of meeting each other on the basketball court to hanging out to doing stuff, because it was like, you also were like a behind the scenes guy who would like practice and practice and practice and practice, and then by the time the game showed up, then you were like committed to showing up, and your actions showed that you had been practicing. That's why I was down there for 3 years, like in Jamaica on that court, and there was, I don't know, I could probably say like a couple hundred people that came through, or at least 100 guys that would come through, and you could tell the people that were just there to showboat, or throw up fancy shots or whatever, but they didn't play together as a team, or they couldn't keep their head cool, or I
won't call name
different times where it was like, okay, we're gonna set up a game, and then they would no show. That was like my biggest, like, people just like no show. I was like, ugh.
I want to segue into this. So I won't call name, but there was a individual that know that I had interest in dating Christine in 2006. And I remember the one day that person, won't call names, wasn't a basketball player, but he showed up. He was an athlete, I would give him that. But he showed up on the basketball court, had his team ready, wanted to challenge me. And I looked.
I think it was a one-on-one game.
well, not two, but it was a one-on-one game. But homeboy, I think that he was gonna challenge the king of the court, because at that point I was like,
You're about to get
oh,
more of my attention.
what Christy was saying is like I was getting more attention from her than he was getting attention, because he liked Christine, in other words. So I gave him the business, because I was like, you're not even gonna score one basket, and each shot he tried to take was getting blocked. It was almost like we transitioned from playing basketball to start playing volleyball, because I was spiking that thing. I blocked it. I blocked it, so so as I said, the cement pad.
I think he still hates that game.
I think I let him hate that game, as Christine was saying, but I let him know that, look, you might be a good soccer player, and I'll give you that. You're not a great soccer player, because I think I could still take you on in soccer, but I got to the point where I was like, when you step on the basketball court, you're in a whole different domain. And I think he was a little embarrassed after that, because his face started turning red. Because I think even one point in the game, he gave up and I started dunking the ball, and he just walked away, because it's like you're fighting a losing battle right now, my guy. It's time to go on down the road, because I can tell you that homeboy got the business. He got the business, and
Anyway,
so so I'm just adding to what you're saying. When it comes on to a challenge, especially in basketball or in life, I'm always willing to take on a challenge, because you don't grow if you don't learn to take on the difficult tasks. That's the point I was trying to make, because it's like, I know playing against that guy, it wasn't gonna be oh, I'm just gonna it wasn't gonna be a cakewalk.
but that's the same
But
thing with like us. That's the same thing with like a lot of the stuff, that decisions that we've made over the years, where like if we were gonna just live, a certain life in the city, and we they would have been that would have been it. Like, but we've challenged ourselves to like grow, and we've I guess busied our lives with other things, but like I know our lives would be completely different if we would have just like stuck to living in Calgary or doing wherever, and we chose to like, no, we want to grow, and we want to challenge ourselves to do something that other people haven't done around us, or do it in like a different way, like having a farm and the animals and kids and all that stuff. And everybody always has their comments or whatever, but we've challenged ourselves to go beyond what we've seen people do around us, and sometimes it's not perfect. But I mean, how, like, just like when you have a basketball player on the court that like is a challenge to you, how do you get better? Like, it's
sharp iron.
Yeah, and it's by you challenge people, or you play against somebody you feel might be a little bit better than you, and that's how you get better.
That's how you elevate your game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Christy,
that's also how you elevate life, is you keep challenging yourself to keep growing
and
more.
you made a very good point, because it's like there's times where I went up against players. This guy too, so it's not just I met him here, but there's times when this guy, from this area challenged me, both in men's league and just pick up ball, and I'm like, men's league is a totally different ball game than playing me on the outdoor court, because I will give you the business, especially if I know there's an agenda behind it. It's like they said there's two sides to people. There's a calm sleeping lion, but then when you wake up that lion, there's a roaring lion that's gonna come out. And to me, it's like for me, you have the calm spirit where you're humble, you're appreciative and all of that stuff. But then when somebody get you on your bad side, it's like, okay, time to wake up the roaring lion, and the roaring lion comes out roaring viciously. But it's the same thing in life. It's the same thing in life. You look at it.
Come at my kids.
Yeah, you look at it like, okay, how can I make things better? And I was gonna say this when you were saying that, if you don't challenge yourself, there's a part in your brain, and I'm not going psychological on here, but there's a part in your brain that activated when you do something that you don't feel comfortable doing or you feel scared of doing. Yeah. You activate that part in your brain. And I'm like, it's funny because there's times when I get stressed out about certain things, but I was like, I almost use something they call the 5-second rule. It's actually a book where you count down from 5 and you just do it. You just go ahead and do it because it's like it needs to get done. Yeah. But I'll close with saying this. This was a very nice episode, and I'm glad that I had Christine on here to kind of share her story. For everybody that is listening, you could be anywhere in the world at this time. It could be morning, noon, or night, and you could be listening to something else. But I thank you so much for tuning in to RalloTech Sports Health and Fitness Podcast. And I want Christine to give her final thoughts, and then we'll close it out.
I would just say that I think that my favorite part about all this right now is as the kids have gotten older, and especially over this last summer, like yesterday I took our 2 oldest on the river for a paddle, and at first, like, Araya was really excited. Roman was like really nervous. Like, how long did it take? He was like, Mommy, I'm excited, but I'm kind of scared. And I was like, that's the best place to be, buddy. Because, like, that's how you go through life, is like you're a little nervous, but kind of scared. But like we went from the one dam to the bridge, and it was about 3 hours and 20 minutes or something. But like all the things that we've learned in life and the things that we go through in life, and then I take the kids on this adventure that they've never done before. And like Araya is like, Mommy, it's so beautiful. Like, this is so awesome. Like, I love this. And in the first little bit, Roman was a little bit scared and nervous and stuff, but it was especially when the water got a little rough or wavy or something, and I was like, it's okay, buddy, just keep it forward and keep going. And then by at least the last hour, like, Araya and I, our shoulders were getting tired trying to keep up with Roman. Like, we passed a group of people that were just floating on floaties, and I mean, half of them were drunk, but they're like, man, he's gonna be like, he's like an Olympic athlete, how fast he's going. And I'm like, I know, we're just trying to keep up with him right now, because he just, like, it, like that moment where you're feeling nervous or butterflies or scared or whatever, that can be like like once you push past that, that's like when doors open for you in life, in the game or whatever. But I think, like, in closing, I think my favorite part right now is taking a lot of the stuff that we've learned and grown through and done, and then we see the kids do it to the point that, like, we got to the bridge that we were gonna get to, and we'd been paddling for 3 hours and 3.5 hours or so, and then there was another bridge that was after that wasn't quite as long, and you said, Roman, you want to go again? And he's like, yeah, I want to go with you, Daddy. And so you guys jumped in the kayaks and kept going, and all together Roman had paddled for like about 5 hours and some. He was pretty sore today, but from going from like nervous and scared and stuff like that to doing like 5 hours on the river paddling a kayak, and I was like, man, this is how you grow your kids. Like, teach them to do something hard and keep, and it might be scary at first, it might seem like it's hard at first, but you just, sometimes it's like, just one paddle at a time, like one shot at a time, like in life or basketball or whatever. It's just like when you get stressful and anxiety, is like you're overthinking everything, and it's just like, you know what, it's just one paddle at a time, and it's just one game at a time, it's one day at a time, it's one good decision at a time, like, and it's, I think that's probably my favorite part right now, is just watching the kids take on these challenges and move forward. And we saw eagles, we saw fish, we saw all sorts of stuff, and they were just, I think it was such a growing moment for them. And so I love being able to take them on these adventures too, and see their mindset and them starting to see life differently, but also giving them these life skills to make decisions and to face something that might be like scary. It might not be something everybody's doing. It might not be like the most popular thing, but because nobody's going to see it behind closed doors, but they'll see it like, you know, how when you show up for the game or you show up in life, they're going to see that there was some, like, you know, people can't say that you're lucky. It's like, no, I worked for this.
Yeah.
You know, I worked for this for a long time. So it wasn't luck. It was hard work and determination and, you know, being disciplined in mind and in body. So that was my final thoughts.
Well, thank you, Christine. That was really, really good. I appreciate you taking the kids on the ride there yesterday, and I'm glad you were able to remind me of that, because I didn't do 5.5 hours like Roman, or just about 5 hours like Roman. But by the time we got to the other bridge, I was really tired. So I appreciate you mentioning that, because it's not just for basketball or hiking a mountain or so on. It's teaching the kids to do something, not just be couch potatoes, but do something in life. Not just survive in life, but do something.
Yeah.
Let your life have meaning. And I was telling Christine before she finished her final thought there, where I was saying to her, she should shout out her upcoming venture, but I think she wants to wait before she does that. But news to come on that. Christine will be announcing future projects that she'll be launching, and I'm pretty excited for her doing this, but you know, taking it one day at a time. So enough of the monologue from me. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Thank you very much again, Christine, for, you know, being on this episode, my 20th episode. I can't believe we're here. And feel free to reach out, leave your comments, leave some tips, some feedback, and I look forward to talk to you guys again. And yeah, what was your favorite thing through this episode? I know it's long, but we had a lot to talk about, and we just condense it so it wouldn't be too long. So thank you again for tuning in to this exciting episode, one of my longest. So I'm really excited to be on this journey with you guys, and please leave your likes, leave your comments. We appreciate every feedback and look forward in doing this again. Thank you kindly.
Good night.
Rollo out.